Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our last attire seminar for this year. And we will, inshallah, be back next year with new set of people and new interesting topics. For this year, the Minga, who is our colleague and dear friend, and he is also a junior research fellow here at HUMA in the Carnegie Corporation of New York project on AI ethics, who's going to be the dessert of this. You're going to be the dessert. We always say the dessert. The last is left for the best.
Okay.
Minga worked, I knew him since I came here first time in Cape Town in 2019. That was long time ago. I was very young and I was happy and yeah, but it was a long time ago, and I remember that it was at the Center for African Studies. We had this very interesting conference. It was on land. And yes, that's where I met Minga the first time. And I mean, when I came back again, like we didn't remember each other. It was like, I saw you somewhere. And it's like, no, we met at the conference. But yes, he worked on a lot of topics. I mean, Minga was here also as a PhD student, and he worked on issues of water and the sociality of water in Kailichia. And he also published a book on that, like based on his thesis. Has a very interesting monograph published in Langa. And he also worked as a senior lecturer in the business school here at UCT, and also taught in places like Stellenbosch University. He taught anthropology. He's an anthropologist. And he was also a fellow. He had a fellowship from the Mastercard Foundation. And a lot of people don't know that Minga is actually trained as a medical doctor. So when you say there's a doctor in the house, that's, we point to Minga, there's a doctor in the house, not just a doctor PhD, but a medical doctor. His topic today is about ethics in the ethics of AI. And he's going to talk about still something that emerged from his research on water. But it's going to be more on the side of climate change and also about data centers in South Africa. So the floor is yours, Minga, and yes, we're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Haza, for such a long introduction. But thank you, I appreciate. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for being here. The last day of the seminar. I don't know why we have to have today's seminar because the campus is closed, but I'm very grateful to see you all here to show that, you really care a lot about the space. And I hope we're going to have a good conversation. So when I was asked to speak about today, I didn't really know what to talk about because there's a lot of things that I wanted to think of. And then I'm like, should I focus on my book project? Should I focus on, what am I going to talk about? So then I have to think a lot, trying to postpone most of the time my abstract to give to Amina, who's been like, Minga, we need your abstract. We need your abstract. So then I end up coming up with this. So my presentation today is more of, because my work is more of an ethnographic work. It's completely different from any other discipline where concept, theoretical frameworks are emerging, while you actually doing your work. It's not the other way around. And I hope while I'm during the presentation, you'll be able to see some of these concepts. For instance, we'll be talking about scarcity of water, I try to avoid, because we don't have enough space to speak about a lot of concepts. I will try to narrow everything down just to focus on the scarcity of water. So the presentation is divided by into sections. The first sections, I'll be talking about my ethnographic work, my research interests. And the second part is going to be in addition to what I spoke earlier here, where I'm adding another layer of artificial intelligence. The reason why the topic is called Technoscape, Technoscape is the idea of fluidity, of how technology moves fast in 21st centuries. And most of stuff that I'm going to speak about are from this book that was published last year. Last year, right? Last year?
Yes,
Yeah,
2020.
last year, yes. It was published last year with a foreword by Antonadia. There she is. Thank you so much, Antonadia, who actually treat this work kind of like a special work, because it was a purely ethnographic work without me adding my stuff. It's just to tell stories, how stories are, or people's life. And then at the end, if we have time, I'll show a short clip, very short clip, which I'm going to just show images, and I'll be talking over those images, then take it from there. So my interest in water started in 2017 when we had a water crisis in Cape Town. Who is from Cape Town? Yes, from Cape Town. I think, yes, I think you know that, you know how the green turned to brown, right? And when we had 90-minute shower, I think you know that. So a 90-second shower, yes. 90-second shower. So it's like you're in and out. So at that particular time, I was actually privileged to be appointed as a research assistant at the OTS, which is an Organization for Tropical Studies. It's a semester abroad research that combines students from the United States also with South Africa. I travel in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Wits University, no, Wits Rural, then come back to Cape Town. I was puzzled with, though the group that I had to supervise had different research titles, so we'll have people who work on work, transport, water, unemployment, and medical circumcision and all that. So I was very interested on the issue of water most of the time. See how people access water in Limpopo. What were the challenges? See how people access water also in Mpumalanga and then in Cape Town as well. So that actually coincide with the water crisis in Cape Town. The funding, as you may know, is that South Africa faces a lot of issues in terms of water scarcity. We have also unemployment. We also have energy problems, so it's a lot in one go. Which one are we going to save? So I think it will come out in my presentation. I had the opportunity to visit the village like Ndomboni, village like Amakwia, Sanai, Dota. There were so many villages that I had the opportunity to also talk to people to see what kind of life they live, their relationships with water. Then I came across most of the names that you're going to see here are pseudonyms, because as an anthropologist, you are trained to not use people's names. So most of them are pseudonyms that I end up giving people names. I was in bushback regions. Then I also tried to look at the work that was done by Cousin, who is an anthropologist. I think he wrote a paper now, a book that Francis reviewed 2 days ago. on the politics of, what was it, biopolitics, something like that in KwaZulu-Natal. So he's a very good scholar who actually also look at the issue of water as well in that particular area of Limpopo and Mpumalanga. So when I returned to Cape Town after that long field work, I start now thinking of how I'm going to conceptualize my work. At that time, I did not have someone, I wanted to do work on water and health, but I didn't have someone with that expertise to supervise me. Then I had to change my topic to water and adaptation to water crisis. You know, I wanted to do more things that related to health. And I wish at that time, if I had been advised to even tap into health department, I could have done so that I can have someone there and also someone in anthropology. But I think that time I was at African Studies. So it turned good. I was happy to look at how people adapt to the water crises. And my research site is Kailicha. Now, before I carry on, I wanted to ask a question amongst all of us here. Who knows Kailicha, or who has been in Kailicha first? Okay. Who have heard about Kailicha? Okay. Okay, that's fine. So the second question I'm going to ask is, if you can give me just one word or a sentence about what you know about Kailicha, what will that be? Or what you heard about Kailicha? Right place? Okay. It's a very dry, rust, party, people party. Okay, yes. Crime, yes. What else? Dry, like lack of space, yes. Okay, so it's interesting to see how we come up with some of these connotations. I call them challenges. Okay, challenges of poor sanitation, for instance, overcrowded. We spoke about overcrowded, low-income housing. You know, where you have shacks. From the picture that you have there, you can see. But all that are connected to something that we all know is a historical injustice of apartheid. Whether we like it or not, just that's how it is. Okay. And then I was curious to go to Kailicha, to be in Kailicha, and my research was done during COVID-19, where I was told it's not possible for you to do research in Kailicha. One, because you were not born in Kailicha. Number two, you look different from, from the people of Kailicha. But I think that did not really discourage me from going there and do my research, which I did and came up with this book that we have here. So I will start also with a couple of, how can I call, excerpt from people's narratives. And we're going to see how we can together navigate that. So the picture you see in front there, it's an old picture of, it was taken in 2010 when in Makaza, when there were issues of toilet, of service delivery, how to supply. I juxtapose this picture with, you can see suburb, because for us to understand Kailicha, we need to understand the suburb. We can juxtapose because Kailicha does not live in isolation. Kailicha is part of this, even though my work is not to compare, but I have to juxtapose this so that we understand why. Because we have people, we have mothers, we have brothers who lives there and go and work in these suburbs. So their relationship with water is completely different when they move into the suburb where they go and work. In Kailicha, the relationship with water is completely different, where you have to summon water outside, but in a formal house, you have to do it in the next room. You know, you just walk out, you go and get water. So I just want to show this picture so that you know we all understand where we're going. So these are some of the experts that well, like there are many, but I just got few of them. It came from many people. As I said to you, these are not proper name. You know, these are pseudonym of one of my participants, who most of them actually became friends, because for me, it was a space that I had to go in a weekend, also have fun, as I said. It's not just a place of crime that people think, you know, because when we think of a space as a criminal, as a bad place, then we miss out something, because it's a space that people live. How do they navigate through that messiness of not having water? You know, what are the relationships that women can have with water? For instance, these are few of the excerpts that I put there, where you hear Zuko, who told me that, you know, hey, brah, we do it sometimes in a basins. What does that mean? To do number two in a basins, because you are in a very tight small. This has to do with water access, okay? Zuko is a 63-year-old who is an old person. Imagine talking to some of these old, even women, telling you about their relationship with water. For me, I think it was one of those moments that I cherish up until today. And I think I've mentioned that to many of my colleagues, also include us, and I say, I couldn't have the courage to publish everything that I heard or what I've written, you know, because it was too overwhelmed for me to do so. So now this is what we call the hidden politics of defecation, where you have people, because of lack of water, they have to defecate in a bush. For those who know Kailicha, that's the reason why I asked Kailicha. Kailicha is, if you drive through the N2, we have 3 entry points to Kailicha. Number 1 is Mewways. Number 2 is Spine Road. The third one is Baden-Powell Drive, which you'll see in the little clip that I'll show in the last. So what we have there, this is what they call pota pota, is a kind of like a toilet, whereby they will drop it, then you use it, and then the next day they will come and replace it with another one. But during the weekend, then they will leave about three of these, because they know that you're going to have to use 3 of them. Then Monday they'll come and collect, because weekend sanitary service do not work. And this is the lived reality of people that are living there. As you can see, a human right and water, why I'm putting some of these images, because it's an ethnographic work. You may recall that, you know, we had hashtag Roads Must Fall here at UCT. And we had one of the students, Kumani, who threw poo at Statue of Rhodes. You know, that the image is in a public space. You know, you can see that. There was also a throwing of poo. What we have there, it's one of the municipal office. At the premier office, there was also poo that was thrown there. At the airport, there was also poo that were thrown. Then I had to ask myself, because I am friend with Kumani, who throw poo there. And I say, my brother, I need to have a conversation with you. I need to know why you have to throw poo there. He told me something very interesting. You know, it was to transport their lived experience of living close or close proximity to what they call shit. You know, in one of my chapter in a book here, I think I've named it. It's how did I know? Yes, liquid shit. So liquid shit is a word that came from them, the resident. It means the idea of living close proximity to human dirty sewage water and all that. And the other picture you see there, it was the people, because it was, we had the court issues and then the win, the court, the battle. I've spoken about the poo protest, and what you have there, you can find it online. The other thing I think is that Kailicha, because it's a prone environment, you always hear there's fire, shack caught fire, and all that, I was there, and I also experienced in one instance where a person died just because there was no water close to the shacks. One man had to die. I've took some of those pictures. I was looking for them. I didn't see, but this is not one of them. So just to show the issue of water, the picture you saw there, the other one there, what you see there is storage water. It's not just water, it's storage water, shacks in water. So then what I was looking for was the relationships that people have with water, the social relationships that are formed around Kailicha with people. And some of these pictures that you see there are part of how relationships are formed, because people come together at a communal tap, right? They do their laundry there. They do at a truck, because it was during COVID-19 period. This is where I spent most of my time. So I'll be in a field work from 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock in the evening, where I just watch how people are collecting water. And of course, some of the area, if you go to Kailicha, you will see that, Kailicha is packed. There is no space anymore. And some of these spaces have been given name. Reason why you see township in South Africa are not born out of nothing. They're born out of an event. And the names that have been given to this township have meaning. Kailicha itself, it has a meaning. Because it was during COVID-19, if you go to Kailicha now, you're going to see an area called COVID-19, pandemic, sanitizer. They exist, those names, just because the area was born during that time. So I've spoken about the relationship that are formed, and also something that we should understand from this from my work is that when you not part of the community, it's very difficult to understand the lingua. Okay, reason why I use what we call metaphor. Okay, how people relate to one another. Now, I'm going to ask, I don't know if we have a Xhosa speaking person here, or someone who heard or understand or know the meaning of the way that I put there. Uhlamba, for instance, it's to wash, exactly. Ukwesula is to wipe, exactly. So now, Ikapa, what is Ikapa? Cape Town. Now listen, it's Cape Town. Now, Ipaluka, Nezipaluka, if someone say Nezipaluka, it's part of the body. Zipaluka is part of. So we have Cape Town, then we have part of. That's the name. Ikapa Nezipaluka. What does that mean? If you're not part of that community, you won't understand when someone say, hey guys, I'm going to do Ikapa Nezipaluka. What does that mean? It's a mechanism that people developed just because of water scarcities. So what they do, Ikapa is a head. Ezipaluka is part of the body. So when someone said, hey, I'm going to do Ikapa and Ezipaluka, I'm going to wash my head and part of my body and walk away. Does that make sense? So you need to be part of the community to understand some of these words. Just because of that, they have to only wash, as you can see the picture there, part of the body that are prone to health condition or to smell. So you can see that's a picture that one of my, it's an illustration that I got from the site, and I had to ask one of my nephew to draw it for me, how the washing techniques and all that. So now, there's a question that I would like to, before I pose the question, I think Fiona Ross wrote about something very interesting about the challenges of people living in on a margin. This is what she had to say. It is difficult to live up to the ideals when material conditions are so constrained, when violence is actually the norm and is given justification in gender and class ideology that hold one in thrall. At times, people are fully aware of the form of violence hidden within the ideals. Sometimes this ideals world is unattainable despite people's best effort. Furthermore, sometimes the material mean to attain social ideals not within one's grasp render one more vulnerable. So she's talking about the challenges when one finds himself or herself in that condition, where you have aspiration that cannot translate into your dream. And then it also takes us to Foucault's concept of biopower, which I'm not going to elaborate more on that, which biopower is a politics of that perpetuate actually the relationship between the body. Here I'm looking at the informal settlement and people that live in that informal settlement, you know. Now, I'm going to pause here a little bit before we carry on and ask another question, which is, as you can see on that picture, it encapsulates the title of today's work, okay? Where you see water, you see technology, you see a lot in that picture. I think the picture tells so much. If you look at the picture in the far corner, right corner there, that picture tells so much about capitalism, about patriarchal, about so much, about racism, how they are all attached to, okay? And then we have also another pictures of how technologies move, where we have cars and all that, and another picture of forced removal, people being removed by force. Because Kailicha itself, it was born out of mobility from people who came from the Eastern Cape. And also there are also foreigners who lives there. You know, it was the subsidies of Crossroad because there were more people in Crossroad, and then they had to create another space for people to move. Then they had to put people in Kailicha. I think I've spoken about a little bit more of what we see on that picture. Now, the other set of questions that I'm going to ask before we carry on is the question about how many of us use Google search? Almost all of us. How many people use AI, ChatGPT? Almost all of us, okay. So, yes. So I have spoken about the relationship with water. I've spoken about the challenges of water, where South Africa itself, if you look at the rainfall in South Africa, is around 800 millimeter cube, okay, which is very low, you know, which makes the area to be prone, you know. That's why I spoke earlier about scarcity of water. And there are many definitions of scarcities, you know, depending on how people define scarcities. We have, I just want to make sure that, you know, I get to the point where I spoke about scarcities. Scarcity are divided into two. We have what we call physical scarcity, and we have what we call economic scarcities. So physical scarcity is when the environment itself have less amount of water that it can provide to the environment. Then we also have what we call economic scarcity. Economic scarcity is due to mostly negligence, mismanagement. It's not that, you know, you don't have water, you have water, but you do not know how to manage it. Now, In South Africa, there's a combination of both. We have economic scarcities, and then we have what we call physical scarcity, where the environment does not have water. And then when we have people assigned to work with water, there's what you call mismanagement or corruption or whatever, you can name it, you know. So those are the two differences between the what we call scarcity. Now, I've asked the question of who uses Google search and also who uses ChatGPT. Now, the impact of it, this is what we need to know. An average of data center use approximately 300,000 gallons of water per day. So if you translate that from this research, it's the water it can be used by 100,000 homes. So just for you to go into ChatGPT, to go in there or to go into Google search, this is what you need to know. This is the amount of water that has been used. Why I'm putting this together? Because we have what we call data centers. And data centers are mushrooming business today. In America, they are everywhere. And they are mostly in prone environment where there is lack of water. In Spain as well, similar pattern. In South Africa, we also have that. So this is not something that we are being told. Of course, we only know that, agriculture uses more water. But we've never been told that technology also uses more water because those data centers need water to cool those engine in order for us, when we say, hey, the internet is so fast and quick, then you need to know there's an amount of water that has been used to cool those data centers. So that's the statistic of how much water has been used. And then by 2027, AI water usage is projected, this is quite a lot, 6.6 billion cubic of water that has to be used. And also, when this water has been used, it cannot be taken back. It's a waste water, it goes. They are trying to look at technology that can actually recycle that water. But for now, we need to live with that. There are many technologies that are trying to provide today, which it doesn't really give us. Now we are caught in a situation where South Africa has more unemployment. Okay, then we have data center who said we're coming to bring you jobs. We're coming to invest. So what are we going to do? Are we going to sacrifice people or are we going to sacrifice technology? So these are the dilemma that we have. And through data center, there's what we call hyperscale data centers. Those are huge data centers, that can take a lot of space. And most of them are found in America. One of them is Google. It's a huge, one of the biggest data center is Google. There's also one in China. I think it's owned by a petroleum company. And then we also have other data center such as Amazon. These are still hyperscale data center. We have Microsoft. We also have Google Cloud as well. We have the next tier, we call it next tier data center. These are not very big data center, but they're still data center that still also use water. We have like Alibaba Cloud, we have Apple, we have IBM. There are many of them. We have Meta platform, we have Oracle. So moving to South Africa now, South Africa also have data center. We have one here in Brackenfell. They call it Terraco. I don't know, did someone go and visit there? I think I've spoken to Divine to see maybe next year we can arrange something where people can go there. Very strict. You can't just go in there. Very strict, just to see how things are done there. You cannot enter. It's very classy, very, very strict for you to enter. It's huge. It actually provides service. They have branch in Johannesburg. They have, and these data centers are located in regions where there's booming activities, like Cape Town and Johannesburg. So Teraco, as I say, is the biggest data center in South Africa, and they work with Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. You can see these are data that does not belong to South Africa, but these are American company working in South Africa and all that. So now when I look at the AI policy, South Africa still do not have AI policy. We cannot blame South Africa because AI is kind of like a new field. They're still rattling. And you heard others talking earlier here about ethics of AI. It's something that, we're all grappling with. So the South African government is still grappling with that to come up with a comprehensive AI strategy to regulate, particularly in terms of water usage. Even though we know that, AI is a good tool that can enable us to do many things. It can help us to detect water leakage. It can help us to save water, but it also has some other connotation, which could be loss of jobs, and because it's machine that are functioning there. So now, why I spoke about structural violence, because I tried to link it now with capitalism. Everything that I've spoken here, it's actually linked to structural violence, which is the word coined by Paul Farmer. He's an anthropologist who spoke about how the violence manifests itself, because it's violence that is also linked to poverty. It's a very violent violence, or violent. It's very violent that you cannot really see. It's deeply embedded in capitalism, and we know that we are not done with that past, particularly if we look at the context in which many African countries are living. Looking at South Africa particularly, there's more to that. Now here I'm trying to look at what structural violence and social life mean. Violence is avoidable impairment or fundamental human need, or the impairment of human life, which lower the actual degree to which someone is able to meet their need below that which will otherwise be possible. It also includes how people are being excluded in a JSC, in a economic sphere, in a legal sphere. These are all violence, because if you cannot have someone who can represent you for your water bill, what can you do? That's also violence. To see how people struggle, they fight just because their water has been cut. And I think Asa asked me a question over the weekend. She said, Minga, I went into a house where there was no water coming from the tap. So how do you explain that? And I say, okay, because the person didn't pay for the bill. Straight. Now that person, you can see already, it's in township, an employed person. How much effort this person need to spend, legal costs for this person to be able to reconnect themselves. So this is how we see how violence manifests itself. It can also be manifested in a religion, and in cultural norm as well, because when we do not have water, what are the cultural norm that can be performed? For instance, here in South Africa, we have what we call umcimbi. Umcimbi is a celebrations, okay, that are done. And I think if you go in townships, you'll see everywhere these parties. This is a time where we eat, we drink, because people are coming from the bushes, from initiation. There are weddings. There are so many things that are happening now because it's a period where schools are closed. So now all these events use water. Now imagine if we don't have water, what will happen to those cultural norms? The culture of when the body need to be disposed, because the body need to be washed, need to be clean for it to move. Here I'm speaking about those who bury their bodies, not those who burn their bodies, because water is important into that. So this is a definition from Paul Farmer. Structural violence is a violence exerted systematically, that is indirectly, by everyone who belongs to a certain social order. Hence, the discomfort these ideas provoke in a moral economy still gear to pinning praise or blame on individuals. So you will see how they will blame the poor. You know, just because you're poor, it's your fault that you do not have water. It's your fault that, you know, your clothes are not clean. It's your fault that, you know, that's what structural violence does. So now what I'm going to do here, if we can just switch off just to dim the light a little bit, it's just a very short clip that I'm going to play so that we can go into a discussion. I'll be talking over the clip. So this is a clip that I made just after the field work. There are many clips, you know, but I didn't. So this is Baden-Powell Drive as you enter Kailicha, not actually entering Kailicha. This is coming from Musenberg. And what you see there is sewage water in an area called Msindweni. It's a new area. And by the way, for now, I think if you go there now, you will see that the service has improved a little bit in a sense that, you know, people do not have access through tracks, you'll see. So that's sewage water. And the guy you see there is one of my research assistant with his girlfriend who actually helped me to collect data. Here we're working to kind of like help people to put the rubble, to cover the area so that, you know, people can live there. It was smelly. It was not good to be in that space. As you can see, I was taking pictures. It took days for us to be there because we had to order trucks to come and dump all the rubbles there so that, you know, we can do that. Many young men, you know, they came, even ladies, just to kind of like assist with that. And in one of the excerpt in a book, you know, because I could not really fit everything here, you will hear the voices of the people, the challenges of being in this environment where they lose everything, because this is sewage water. You woke up in the morning, out of the blue, your feet are found in sewage water and smell and stink and all that. So you lose everything. This was one of the lady who told me that this is a water tank that I also volunteer just to work with them for the 13 months that I've been in Kailicha. So I had a good conversation with people. And here I was walking around the area just to see, to check the tank if there's water, if the tanks are clean, you know, so that, you know, we can clean, then put water in it. So then I had to walk. This is an area called Taiwan, a very rough area, but I had to walk in that. When people ask me, Minga, how did you get into that area? And I say, just because there are people who live there. So that's why I got there. So the two gentlemen and the lady there, that's the girlfriend of the guy that I told you, they were also helping me. The two young men in front, they were from the area. We had to walk through to a lady called Sipokazi. It's a name that I give, you know, it's not a real name, just to see how she access water. This is not far from the N2. Her house was really actually set on sewage water. And she had a daughter who she had to send to the Eastern Cape because of the rash that she had. So her story is similar to one of the lady in a book called Azile. Azile is a lady who had rash on her body. So here, it was when the city official came to demolish some of the shacks that people put together. And it was so draining, actually, when I finished my field work, you know. I had to devise a mechanism of when I finish my field work, what I'll do is to go home. Before I do anything, I'll ask my wife to interview me first. So that's how I collect the data. And I say, okay, now when I come from the field work, you need to interview me. You need to hear now my view of the field. And in most cases, I was actually drained, tired, exhausted, and also angry a little bit, you know, like, is this really life? But as a researcher, sometimes you just need to do what you have to do there, but you cannot detach yourself from the people. This is in Polar land. You can see there's a P there, where the municipality came and removed all the stuff. So here I'm not just blame the municipality, and also I'm not blaming the people. It's a shared responsibilities here of the municipality or the state and the people. Here is, it is in site B, and the ladies there, those are, I call them my mothers. I had a nice conversation with them. They are the one who's collecting those pota, as you can see. That's human waste. And then they had to go and put them in a truck and then take new container and leave them in a house. As you can see, the toilet, one toilet can take up to 5 families, not 5 people, 5, 6 families, just one toilet, yes. And you know how people live in township. It's not a family of 2 people. The family can be a family of 6, 3, 5, or 8 people. So here I was working in an area called COVID-19. Then I had to go and see the other side that Asa spoke about, the other side of Kailicha, which is this other side of Kailicha, where you will now have formal houses. This is a place called, they call it Kwaes. It's a place that normally, even weekend, I go there sometimes. If friends say, Minga, we need to go and meet there, I go there. It's a nice place just to see what's happening there, because here the reality is completely different from the reality of those who live in shacks. But the challenge here is the entanglement of formal and informal houses, how they are connected to one another. So on this note, I think I'll stop here because you don't have enough time to allow for us to engage. Thank you.
And your ethnography is fascinating, because you really bring us into the space and experience the different lives that people are living in that space. I'll open the floor for questions, remarks, Abina and Kwesi.
Thank you, Minga, for your feedback. So I'm just curious, do you bring any community-led initiative in terms of water provision or even distilling, treating the water that they have to, anything like that?
Thank you.
Kwesi.
Thank you, Minga. This video, I think this is the second time I'm watching it. It feels like I'm watching the first time. It's really touching to see the kind of situation people are living in. And you cross the other and so much enjoying everything that you could. Last time when I was in Joburg, we went to some parts of Soweto and to see how things were in some of the areas, particularly in relation to electricity. My question is, would you say the case of Karisha is kind of economic scarcity or physical scarcity? The economic or physical described as the 2 types. Are they what happened to the community? How they access water? And people can afford to pay, because in the case of electricity, you realize that the people were doing illegal because they say they can pay. And it's at a point where the city authorities are not able to even access the meters. I don't know what is the situation with regards to water in Caribbean.
Thank you. Can I respond to the 2?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there are many initiatives in Kailicha, especially led by women. Women work hard. I need to be honest with you. And I think a lot of data that I collected myself came from women. So a man, when you ask a man about water, it's like short answers. unless you put booze there, then stories start coming out. But with women, it's completely different because they tell you their stories. As I said to you, there are stories that were very close to my heart, which a lot of things I discussed it with Aza. And I said, I'm not going to put them in my work because these are stuff that, these women trusted me. They're like, Minga, these are our stories. Very painful experiences, but they are a lot. But the issue here is, it's a very complex issue on coming to respond to your issue of environmental. I think in South Africa, somewhere I argue in this book to say, it's more provocative to say, there's no water scarcity here. There's bad management of water. Because even Kalicha, if you look at how Kalicha is, that's why I say Kalicha is not far from, it's not an island. It's part of, if we have the issue of water here, it cannot be said, they are the other. The country itself has what we call physical scarcity. Physical scarcity means the amount of water, the rainfall that we always receive per year is below the thresholds. You need normal, if we look at the population growth, now we are around 62 million to 63. At least we should have above 1,000, 1,002 or 1,003 water per annum, which we do not have. We have somewhere around 800, which is not really good. By 2030, South Africa itself will have a deficit of 17% of water depletion. So what will that mean to our custom? What will that mean for technology? Because now we have technology that need water. And then we also have human that need water. And then we have the constitution that said you have the right to water. So which body are we going to sacrifice here? So yeah, that will be my response. In terms of illegal connection, yes, illegal connection exists, but well, we live in a world where people need to survive. And my argument there, people might take it in the wrong way, is that you cannot teach someone who's on a margin how to survive. Never. But we are told, because people on a margin are being seen as people who can't think, you need to tell them what to do, you need to tell them how to wash, you need to tell, they know everything. They know how to do all these things. It's just that, their voice are being suppressed. And I think for policy, to vote for policies, we should actually learn more. There are more to learn there than what we learn from people in a suburb. And it could also be a problematic argument to say we try to normalize it. Like, they have to, those on the margin, they have to be like that. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying here is, yeah, people do this all illegal connection, because when I was in Taiwan, they were all the illegal connection and water. They didn't want to talk to me first because they thought I was a spy. I was working for a political party. So I had to negotiate with them. It was a question of trust and also be vulnerable, because I had to be vulnerable. I wanted them to see who I am and not to see me as of course I had power, like a researcher from UCT, all that. These are all power dynamic that we carry. But how do you break those power dynamic when you find yourself in a situation like that? So there were a lot of negotiation, the back and forth. So illegal connection, yes, you find them because people are in need, people are unemployed. They have to find ways to do that. But the government is also trying their best, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's a bit difficult.
Nadia?
Speaking because we have talked so much. But one thing that strikes me since I read your PhD is the fact that the water supply in South Africa was state-sponsored before 1993, 1994. So there is a coincidence here that it's very tricky. After apartheid, people began to pay for water. which means that all those who have benefited from a state-provided service before, they have accumulated this capital, the infrastructure. So, yeah, so I really think that, of course, it's the structural adjustments in the 90s in all our countries, but there is this, as you were saying, a contradiction. The Constitution says something, but practically the reality is another thing. So, yeah, it's just a comment on how the structures of oppression, they have just changed their garments in the course of the experiences. And of course, I'm not comparing, but if we, like in Brazil, we have the same constitutional rights, but there is a certain minimum amount of water and electricity that has to be provided, even by these private companies. And here in South Africa, if you run out of electricity, if you don't prepay it, if you don't repay your water, you don't have it. So, yeah, it's just a comment on this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. There is also in South Africa, we do have that, they call it a free, because we had different policies. We have the 1997 Policy Act, then we have, after 2000, we had what we call a free basic policy, where they have to give, I think it was 6,000 liter of water for free, then they start reducing that, so of course, if you go in, somehow they do, I'm not saying, but I think the idea or the issue here is how do you control water in an informal area, where there are so many people who are coming there, because responding to Azza's question that she asked me, because she wanted to know, so this formal house, how do they now access water? Then I say, okay, they go into informal settlement. Can you see the entanglement of formal and informal? So example, I'm in a formal house, where I cannot pay my bill. They cut my water. I'll go in informal settlement close to me and collect water. And here is the idea of conviviality. Of course, we cannot homogenize people and think, they're all the same. It doesn't mean when we speak about conviviality, everything is harmonious. There are also tensions, where people will be like, why you come and fetch water, why and all that. But I think because people understand each other predicament, there's something that, we might think or see as disorder, but it's order for the people, so yeah, that's something that exists. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry?
Where does the water
Okay.
purchase from Swaziland?
Okay.
And second, I am really impressed with the dynamics that comes with the AI and data centers. They always say that the areas where the data centers have been implemented have seen the bills in electricity and water grow for the consumers. It means that the consumers are the ones who are impacted with the scarcity, but they are also the ones who are paying for the infrastructure. And I wonder if this is also the case.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is a kind of like an ongoing investigation that need to be done, because in South Africa, this is kind of like a new era of AI data center booming. Go back first to your first question about where does South Africa get water, and also Swaziland and all that. Most of water that we drink in South Africa, particularly in Gauteng, it comes from Lesotho. South Africa does not have water. Most of its water is being damaged by acid drainage if you go to Gauteng itself. So the water in Gauteng is completely, it's not drinkable. So they have water. Lesotho have so much water, fresh water, that South Africa tap into. Swaziland also has some water, but the dichotomy there and also the contradiction is that, if you go to Lesotho now, there are people who are lack of water when South Africa is getting water. Politics. So as I said to you, the data center, I don't know yet. This is something that, I need to go a little more deeper to understand now who's paying for this water, because we have issues of water in South Africa, in Cape Town, but we have these data centers that are using water. How do they manage? Because these are not conversations that you hear. Of course, you hear the conversation of saying that, agriculture use more water, but we never come across some of these like data center, like the statistic that I showed you here about when you go on Google search, the amount of water that you use, or when you go and do your AI search, the amount of water that you use. These are still, for me, it's still a bit more something that I need to research a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that was very depressing. Because I was filming in Kailicha. It was some celebration of, I don't know if it was 20 years or 25 years of Kailicha's existence. At the OR Tambo Hall, they had a celebration. And we went into some suburbs, some parts of Kailicha, and it was also flooded with sewage, like in your photographs, like in Taiwan, and there were these like concrete things that we had to jump over, and it was smelly. And then like around 4 o'clock, drinking started and the men appeared suddenly. So that was when Kailicha turned 20 or 25 years old. It was 2010, I think. So it's depressing that I had that experience in 2010 and you had that experience in 2019, and it still hasn't been solved. So I know you said that the government is trying and it's difficult, but hey, how are they trying? Because when I filmed there, Kailicha was 20 years old already, and there were 1 million people living there. So that's just my one point. And then I like telling people, I don't know how many people know that Kailicha is on the Cape Flats, and it's called the Cape Flats because Cecil John Rhodes, when he was up on the mountain one morning, he liked to go for a ride on the mountain where Rhodes Memorial is, and he would look out from the mountain and he would see that flat land. And so he called it the Cape Flats, and it's thanks to Cecil John Rhodes that we all know about the Cape Flats. But Kailicha is also under the water table. So there's loads of water there. So why don't people have access to the land? That's probably why that sewage is also there, because there's no drainage, there's no water system, but there's so much water there. So it's another contradiction that there's water there. But people don't have access to it. And then I have some questions. What is this question? Sorry. You said that in 2027, by 2027, we would have to decide if we. Okay, this is my question. I was wondering what you mean when you talk about AI. What does AI mean? Because since 2023 in my world, people are using AI to mean computing. So is that what you mean? Or do you mean something else? I just want to get clarity on that. And then I was curious about who owns the data center in Brackenfell. I understand you said it's used by Microsoft and all those American players, but who owns it? Who's getting the money for that? Do you know?
Thank you. Thank you. Most of these data centers are privately owned. Privately, yeah. They are privately owned. Now, going back to the question that you asked about AI, AI is an artificial intelligence. It's a force that, we don't see, me and you, but it's a force that is using water in a way that we do not understand. For instance, here we're talking to people who are online. We're using data because these data are being sent to the cloud. You see that process, to process the idea of people seeing us here and connecting with people, which means there's a technology involved there. Now, this technology are being controlled somewhere, which we call the centers, and these centers are run by engineers. There are machines there that dictate the kind of image that we need to have, the sound we need to have, and all that. But for us to have that, we need water, because if we do not have water, those centers will blow up and we won't have the service that we have here. So that's the connection that I'm trying to make here. See, this is technology that whatever we do, that's why I asked the question of who used Google search. And I gave the amount of water, that Google search uses. Who uses ChatGPT, and I also gave the amount of water. These are all research well done by real researchers. They're like, this is what we have. This is the amount of water that is used when you click on and say, I'm searching for University of Cape Town, because the information goes. How all this information get generated? It is through AI. And AI cannot function without water. Water need to be there. And that's the connection that I was trying to make there. And back again to your question of being in Kalicha 20 years ago and now. Yes, I think South Africa, particularly Western Cape, is a very complex. The politics in Western Cape is completely complex. That's why I said it is a shared responsibilities, to see how this problem are not being solved for so many years. And at the same time, we cannot say the government is not trying. That is being actually unfair. They are trying, but maybe they are trying in a way that, is not what we think they are trying. I'm not saying that. The people also, we cannot just blame the people and say it's their fault. Maybe they are also trying their best, but the issue is, how do the government and the people meet together in order to solve these type of issues? If you go and you see sewage water, for instance, and of course my talk is always depressing, because I'm talking about people's lives. It is depressing. As I said to you, when I go in a field work and I come home, I'm drained, completely drained. And I'll sit there, start thinking, because you're now rewinding everything that people told you. So it is, it's a process. And I think if we need to solve these issues, they need to be. Leslie Green wrote about capitalism. One of her book, Rock Life and Colonialism. She spoke about also this inequality that we have in Western Cape, in South Africa, and all that. Until we solve that issues, then I think we'll be okay. Otherwise, we keep on running around. Yeah.
Well, Minga, I think that's yeah. It's really great. It's still, as you said, it's a work in progress, and we expect next time when we hear your presentation, you tell us more about Brackenfell and all those data centers and how are they consuming the water, and what is that adding to the already existing issues that you raised about access to water. Actually, it's about access to water more than it's the presence of water. And that's similar. I mean, in Sudan, we had the river Nile. We have the biggest Nile in the world, not even Africa. But it's still, there's a lot of issues when it comes to access to water. So
Yeah.